Hello and welcome to Property Question Time with me, Gemma Forte, and my trio of industry experts who you get to ask questions to. All your advice on all issues property-based for free. So let's introduce you to the panel who we've got here today. We've got Tony Gimple, the founding director of Less Tax for Landlords. We're also joined by Chelsea Wright. Now, Chelsea is an investor and developer, and you are from Wright Developments.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we've got Paul Higgs, who over the years has done a bit of everything really. Training, he's a chartered surveyor, he's a developer, and of course, the chief exec of the Millbank Group. Welcome along, all of you. Okay, I'm going to start off with a question for you, Tony. So it's quite a simple one, this one. Well, at least the question is. Is there a case for all life insurance policies to be placed in trust?
Absolutely, and it's one of the few remaining cases where trusts are the most effective and tax efficient thing to use.
Okay.
The benefit of a trust, it's a separate legal personality. It may be a piece of paper, but it has its own life. By placing life insurance in trust, it will pay out free of tax and before probate is granted. You have to be a little bit careful if you're dealing with high value policies. If each policy is worth more than $325,000, the amount one can typically give away free of inheritance tax, then it's best to have the policy segmented and you have a series of sequential trusts for each segment of the policy.
Okay.
But a very tax efficient and practical way of doing things.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I mean, that's so your area of expertise exactly, isn't it?
For a change.
Right, moving along to Chelsea. Now, somebody here says, now it's quite an interesting question actually, how much should someone have in available funds to start investing in property? And what kind of properties should a beginner start with? It's a great question for you, isn't it? Because you really sort of started with just one property and developed, didn't you, yourself?
Yeah, so I bought and flipped properties to make up my honeypot, if you like. Since watching the programme, I've read about crowdfunding opportunities, which would be a smaller amount. But I think initially, if they were going to buy to either develop or buy to let, the minimum deposit is 25%. And then it will be down to what kind of property they could afford. So if we wanted to cover more bases and take an easier option, ideally we would like a modern 3-bed family home, perhaps, less maintenance issues. We would cover more bases with potential tenants, so hopefully we'd be let more often. But that would come down to if they could afford that in their area of choice.
Because we were talking about this before the programme began, that depending on where you are, prices fluctuate so wildly. So it's quite difficult to put a figure on it, isn't it? I mean, you'll know about your area, but...
Yes, so one of my favourite things in my area would be I particularly like what I call like a first-time buyer's first home. So when they've had their first home and they're selling up to buy their next property, they tend to be really modernly decorated. They might have put a new kitchen or bathroom in. They're affordable. They'll rent really well because they'll attract that age group. So I would say that we would need to think about what kind of tenant we're going to go for and what we can afford in the area, and it might be worth saving up a little bit longer and holding out for the bigger deposit to get the better property.
Okay, and we should say as well, your area is Cumbria, right? Yeah.
Yes. And another nice idea would be that if they wanted to build a bigger portfolio, they could definitely buy something that they could save and develop, improve, sell on, or even release more equity for it in the future. So they need to look really at the bigger picture. Why are they investing in property and what long term do they want to get out of it?
Okay, and maybe also because it's difficult to say a figure, maybe we should say what you should be thinking about. So you've got deposit, you've got legal fees. What am I missing out? What else do we need to cover?
Well, it's nice to have something aside as well if there is any maintenance issues, or if we have a time where there's no tenant in the property because if we've got a mortgage to pay. So it's not just the deposit and that's it.
Contingency fund. Yeah, to make things safe. That sounds. I know people like to have a few months, sort of what the mortgage would be in the bank, just in case.
Well, interestingly, under the new mortgage rules, lenders will be looking at how you're going to cope with voids.
Right.
So having a cash reserve within the business will go a long way to making that mortgage funding a little bit easier.
Okie dokie. All right then. Well, good luck as well to you starting out on your property journey. Right, Paul, we have a question for you here. It's a bit of a longer one, this one. This person says they are planning to convert a stable block on land that is part of their parents' house. So they're buying the land off their parents. I've successfully applied for planning permission and was wondering what the best next step was. Should I start to look at brokers for mortgages, or does the land need to be separated first? So does anybody have any experience of self-build mortgages with recommendations or things to avoid?
So there's a couple of things there. So firstly, I'd question why they are buying the land off of their parents. If it's being transferred, then there's going to be SDLT. So, you know, most of us probably don't like paying tax that we don't have to. So I'd really question why they're doing that to start with, okay? Assuming they need to get to the bottom of that first. Assuming there's a good decision or a good reason to transfer it, then yes, it will need to be put into a separate title, because if they're then going to borrow against it, it needs to be separated from the existing house, the existing property, any existing lending that may or may not be on that.
Okay.
Without knowing the numbers, it's hard to say, but you know, I would have thought it's worth investigating somehow remortgaging or refinancing, or looking at what may or may not be able to be done with the existing lender, because by virtue of that, if someone's now got, you know, planning permission for part of the land, they obviously would have increased the overall value, which would have changed the loan to value of the existing loan, etc. All of that needs investigating. I think there's probably quite a few opportunities here that maybe the people aren't thinking about. And finishing on the broker question, yeah, of course, you know, talk to a good broker that's experienced in self-build mortgages. So.
Okay, all right. So generally, get the good advice. What's the common theme here is that people have a really good idea, but they don't 100% know. And it is such a quagmire, isn't it? I mean, I don't know, when you started out, Chelsea, did you find it quite a simple process, or were you just working out as you went along? Or who did you find was the best person to go to advice for?
Well, I question everything.
Everything.
So I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
But we've done something similar. The property that I have as my family home, the stable blocks were already converted into a bungalow.
Right.
But it wasn't done how I would have done it, and it was done a long time ago. So when we came to that point, we went back to our lender, didn't speak to anybody else. They gave me the same rate. They wanted to lend us more money because we were already a good customer, if you would put it like that.
Okay, yeah.
And, you know, nobody knows that it's two properties, really, because it's still in the one. So, and if it's, and my mum's in the bungalow and I'm in the house, so it's a similar setup.
Yeah.
But we haven't separated anything because we didn't need to, and it did save us. You know, we trust each other.
Yes.
So
yeah, so that's sort of what you were flagging up.
I think one of the key things for everyone really, and it's a, you know, so I know it's you know, Tony will know much more about this. It's a big thing with tax in general. You know, you go transferring things from one entity to another, you trigger a SDLT liability, which you know, you're not going to want to be paying if you don't have to.
Oh yeah, very true. Right, I think we've just about got time to squeeze in a brief golden nugget. So, Paul, should I pick on you?
You can do.
He's frowning at me.
What do you want to know?
Well, maybe something related to that. I mean, it's for you to tell me, you're the expert.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'll tell you what I will say actually. It's interesting talking before we started. You know, we were talking about values in different areas, and you know, the answer to some of these questions, in fact, lots of these questions, is going to be a bit different depending on where you are in the country. So, as a developer, I think about everything in terms of sales value per square foot.
Right.
Okay. And it's interesting because I know that lots of investors don't.
Right.
So I. You know, so sometimes I don't even ask the question. So, for example, we were talking about this earlier, and I was going to say, what are sales values per square foot there? Now, you might know. I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know. No.
Yeah. So, the reason we do that is, as developers, it's just a really quick and easy way of analysing things and getting to the bottom of is it a deal or isn't it a deal really quickly.
Got you, yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
So, for example, I mean, I'm guessing, and this is a guess. Sales values in Cumbria probably between 150 quid and 200 quid a square foot, right? I'm guessing more like 150, might even be lower. Totally not my market, okay? So it'd be interesting to see. For example, if there was let's say it's a petrol station site came up there and it was vacant and redundant. It's obviously going to be contaminated. Maybe you could get a big block of flats on there. I know for a fact it's going to cost 200 quid a foot plus all day long just to develop the thing. So if it's going to cost 200 quid a foot to build the thing, and you can only sell the finished thing for 100, 150 quid a foot, I just know it's not viable. So as a developer, once you get to think that way, you know, most of the time I can pretty much tell whether something's a deal or not very early on just by looking at it and thinking about the values and the build costs.
Oh, that's really fascinating way of looking at it, isn't it? And actually, therefore, you can be quite decisive quite quickly. I like this. Thank you. That's a brilliant nugget. Okay, guys, that's it for part 1, but more amazing advice like that coming up in part 2. Just got a short break now. Welcome back to part 2 of Property Question Time with me, Gemma Forte, and Tony Gimple, Chelsea Wright, and Paul Higgs. Okay, so before the break, we had an amazing golden nugget from Paul. So Tony, I think it's your turn. Can you follow it?
Hard act to follow. I suppose the biggest golden nugget is start where you want to finish.
Okay.
Most people will just have a good idea, talk about it with their best mate, they share the same prejudices and off they go with no clear plan.
Okay.
The best way for any business, let alone property, is to understand why you are doing it. So if you were going to retire tomorrow or whatever makes you happy, start with that goal in mind. So you've now got 2 fixed points, where I am now, where I want to be, and now you can reverse engineer it.
Okay.
You've got the right numbers, and you're asking yourself all the key questions: how much, of what, by when, by whom, and most importantly, why am I doing it?
Okay.
And the why is singly the most important part.
Yeah. I guess that's so wise, because there's a big difference, isn't there, between I actually need some more income, in which case you would do one thing, or, you know, I want to retire in 20 years and have something to sell. So that's different, isn't it?
Either way, you've got to put numbers on it. How much more income? And if it were 20 years tomorrow, what kind of pension would I be looking for?
And then there's the dream, and then there's what you can do.
Well, shoot for the moon,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
But at least have something to aim at.
Okay, yeah, so a bit of goal setting.
Yeah, darkened room, bottle of scotch, cold towel wrapped around your head, and just,
That's how I
work it
organise
out.
my life. How did you know?
Well, there was a bottle of scotch on the table. It really did give the game away.
It was that towel I had on my head when I turned up. No, but it's really true. And I think that, with no disrespect to anybody, I think when all the property programmes started, quite a lot of people just thought, that looks easy, or oh, that looks quite fun. I love painting rooms, or I like smashing down walls. And then the next thing you know, it's like they're just massively, some people were a bit in over their heads and a bit inspired, but as you say, didn't really know maybe where they were trying to get to.
And now you really have to run it as a business.
Yeah, there's no easy money to be made anymore, is there, in anything? No. Okay, so Chelsea, a question for you. This person says, I need my bathroom plumbing to be done all over again. Ooh. As when it was first installed, it wasn't done properly, and the company is no longer in business. Maybe not a surprise. It will cost me just over £10,000 to fully fix everything. How do I go about finding the right team for this job, knowing that it will be fixed once and for all? That's a trick. I mean, that's just saying, how do you find trustworthy tradesmen, I suppose?
Yeah.
Which I guess you have to employ people all the time. So what's your rule of thumb?
First of all, where's he got the £10,000? Is he pricing that, or so?
Yeah,
I would kind of put
doesn't
that
it?
to one side for now, because we don't know if that's the best. Like, word of mouth, isn't it, for recommendations? So I would be asking around social media at work if anyone's had work done, or if family has. If he has no luck, then there is websites that you can go on, advertise your complete job. And recommended contractors will use those websites. They pay for your details, you as the customer, so you're only going to get genuine people that want to quote and they want to do the work. You can also then see their previous customers' reviews. It's a bit like shopping online.
Is it like Trust a Trader? You've got sort of
there's-
places like
there's
that, and
loads
there's
of them,
lots
yeah.
of different ones, aren't there, as well? Other companies do exist.
And it is free for you as a customer to use, so that could be something that would be worth doing. And also, I think you're well within your rights to ask the contractor for previous customers' details. If you genuinely don't know them and you don't know of any work they've done, they should be more than happy. I know that when I find someone that's good, I will tell anyone that'll listen, because good tradesmen are like gold.
They are.
So I think that would be definitely what I would do. Start maybe at work or on your social media and just ask, has anybody had work like this done recently that they would happy to recommend someone. And also, someone that's really good won't be free tomorrow.
True.
So
they will be busy.
They'll be worth the wait, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I always find that with a sort of tradesperson, you really find out the cut of their jib, if you like, when there's something goes wrong. And it's the really professional people who, if they've made a mistake, as people do, they go, we will rectify this straight away. Absolutely, we'll cover the cost for this or whatever.
It's pride in the work.
Pride, exactly.
And don't just go for the cheapest quote. It's cheap for a reason. If they either undervalue their own time, use poor materials, or don't do a bad job, or do a bad job, that's why it's cost you less money.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I hope that the bathroom gets fixed, because they obviously don't want to do it again. And it's so awful that the company's no longer in business. They can't go back to them either. Terrible. But yeah, word of mouth. Word of mouth is so important. Okay, so Paul, now this is interesting. I think we've got this question for you, because I believe you spent some time in Seville in Spain, correct?
I did, although...
Not just on a holiday.
Not a lot of people know that.
Not a lot of people know that, exactly.
But I did, yeah.
Yes, okay, so this person says, I've recently come across land for sale in the Seville area.
Yeah.
There's development potential for new build houses and already planning permission, but I've never actually been involved in building from scratch. I've invested in property in the area before and was hoping to invest in property in the commuter belt, but I'm not too sure whether I should risk buying land. Any advice?
Yeah, so... Yes, I don't know how that question has come about. It's a bit weird that I lived in Seville for 2.5 years. I was semi-retired there, and although prior to that I'd been pretty much worked in development for 25 years. So it's all I've ever done. I know it inside out. Got very good at it. However, even though I very soon got bored whilst living in Seville, I would not get involved in development, right? The reason I believe I've got fairly good at what I do is, I made myself an expert in one thing. I've studied it for years and years and years. I know it inside out. Even with all my experience, to go and do it in a different country where I didn't really know the language, I didn't know the law, I didn't know the rules and regulations. It's difficult enough here without doing it in a country that you don't really understand. So I would be really, really, really careful about getting involved in development in another country, particularly, even if you were massively experienced. So, so that's one thing to say. Another thing to say, having said that, I'll now contradict myself. just before I left Spain to come back to England, a mate of mine came up with a site in Marbella, which we are currently developing.
Okay.
Right. So the reason so it's for 3 big villas. It's actually an obviously excellent deal. So I'm fairly confident that that's going to be okay. Plus, I know what I'm doing. But the important difference there is Marbella is an international market. It's like central London or Knightsbridge or whatever. People from all over the world want to be there. So it's a very, very different market. So Seville, which is obviously a market that I do know, is not international at all. It's a very cliquey local market. Even if you're in the really good bits, and there's only a couple of them, it's when I was there, when did I leave? I left about 3 years ago now. I came back, and things hadn't picked up there at the time. So what it's like now, I don't know. But there were a lot of half-built plots around. There was a lot of land around, even in the very, very best bit. So I'd be super nervous.
Have some serious reservations. Well, thank you for your honesty on that one. Thank you. Tony, this person is new to investments and indeed to tax returns. They've got a pension income of $380 a month, And if their investments were to grow at 6% per year, that would be £9,000 a year. I'm nowhere near needing to pay income tax from that income, but am I right in thinking that capital gains tax is what applies to my investments and their growth, and that I'm allowed about £11,000 a year before I have to pay it? Given that I can put £20,000 each year into a stocks and shares ISA, it looks like I can keep clear of paying tax.
Yeah, because capital gains tax only occurs when you crystallise the asset.
Okay.
All the time it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
It's effectively not subject to CGT.
Okay.
And then it's only on the gain when you sell it, less the cost of acquisition, less all the cost of running it, and any other breaks that may be available. But it's the wrong question. Don't worry about paying tax. Worry about making money in the first place.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
It's kind of like if you make the money, you can afford the tax.
Basically, all right, then you need to minimise it insofar as the law allows, but concentrate on getting rich first.
Yeah.
And then you can start to have concerns over taxation.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. So, Chelsea, I'm going to come to you for our final golden nugget now. So, I think, given that you are a developer, but you started out sort of, if you like, from the bottom, from i.e. one property and flipping it and so on and so forth, let's find a nugget for people who are starting out in the developing business or want to.
I think it would be going back to good tradesmen, like gold. And I think if you find a good one, stick with it. I'm really loyal with everybody that I use. And I don't want to take it away from women too much, but there's some emergencies that I just can't deal with and call outs. Yes, I'm always there on the phone, but I mean, I'm very lucky because my husband's my builder. But because
Oh, you are. You married your tradesman. You see that she really means it. If you find a good one, keep them.
I married him. But he's now busy working for us full-time on development. So if we go back to my portfolio, I'm having to use other companies for maintenance call-outs and things. And I've got a really good relationship with them. They look after me, I look after them. Yeah. And, you know, I can call them anytime. And I think that has made it so much easier for me because I can trust them. I don't need to worry that they're going to rip me off or how much it's going to cost because I already know because it's always the same. And I really think that you do need to have an involvement with that side of it. Even if you are got one rental and it's managed by a letting agent, it's good to know who is doing your gas safes each year, your electrics, because what they'll charge you through the agent and what someone will charge you direct is two different figures completely. And also you want to know that you've got somebody good doing your gas safe.
Too right, yeah.
I've been in a situation recently where I bought a property at auction that was already converted, and the guy who'd done the gas safe did it for me again, not who I normally use. And then when it came round to my 12 months and who I normally use, everything wasn't as I'd been told it was. And I'm really by the book. I would never...
Yeah, of course.
So that was a recent, you know, another lesson I've learned.
Yeah. So that's your reputation, isn't it, as a landlord? But nice that you can go home and also go, is this quote sensible?
Yeah.
You know, that's such a great advantage.
You've got to be really careful with things like gas safe and so on. Ultimately, you've got an unlimited personal liability. You know, if the boiler blows up on Christmas Day, so to speak, and the whole family gets wiped out, you will get wiped out financially. Yeah. As well, almost regardless of whether you own them personally, whether you own them in a limited company. Yeah. Because while shareholders have a limited liability, directors, unlimited personal liability. So things like the gas safe, by the book.
I think you're so right. And when you do find a good tradesman, like you say, just pay them what they're worth, look after them, and it's a great relationship to sort of evolve. I've got another friend who married a builder, and she said actually he doesn't do any DIY at home because it's like busman's holiday. So he's out working all day, and then he comes home and she's like, can you? And no, I can't be bothered. So her house is like half done.
Yeah, no, that's similar to mine.
Yeah, fair enough as well. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching this episode of Property Question Time. We'll see you soon for more fabulous advice, and in the meantime, if you'd like to ask us any questions, it's info@property-tv.co.uk, or go to the website, all the W's, property-tv.co.uk. That's goodbye from me and my experts. We have got Tony Gimple, we've got Chelsea Wright, and we've got Paul Higgs. Thank you very much.